We need to convince one player that he's on the road when he's at home. And are we getting close to thinking, are we really for real and contenders? As you know what I mean, let's flash back to remember when this guy played for you know what? Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Flames in 6. Season 4, episode number 5. As we'll recap and talk about how things went for the Calgary Flames, games 19 to 24 during the 2021-22 regular season, and it's starting to seem like that. Are we for real again? Especially from 3 years ago, and can we start throwing out that C word for contenders? As we definitely have been rolling along, but as you know, in these parts, it's ultimately going to come down to what happens in the playoffs. And also, we have a couple materials for a brick wall named Markstrom and Vladar. So before I get my notes, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, or recap games and talk about some stories. But I do a variety of non-sports content like personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I'll do share my experience saying on the road or a sporting event. And I have done some vlogging to go, so if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, you know what you need to do, just make sure you hit like and subscribe. And I have my second channel in Brett Hornby Shorts. And of course with these game recap videos, there'll be timestamps if you want to jump to any particular games. Also, we'll take a look at how things are going on the farm in Stockton as well. So to start off this episode, for game number 19, let's go back on Sunday, November the 21st, as the Calgary Flames were wrapping up their 7-game road trip, as they were in Boston to take on the Boston Bruins. This was a 5 p.m. puck drop at the TD Garden, and with this being on a second night of a back-to-back, it was Dan Vladar that started in net for Calgary, and I'm going to say, not bad swap for a third-round pick. And also mention that Dan Vladar, yes, he did play for the Boston Bruins as he started his NHL career. And if the hockey guy, a Bruins fan himself, says he misses Dan Vladar, maybe this game will make him miss him just a little more. But to get to the game at hand here, Calgary got on the board early, as it was Johnny Gaudreau who scored his 8th of the season at the opening minute and a half mark. So Calgary took a 1-0 lead, and actually that was all the scoring in the first period. Both sides played even for much of the game. Second period, the next goal did not come until the 14-minute mark of the second period, as it was Noah Hanifin who scored his first of the season. So now Calgary took a 2-0 lead, and that's actually how things stood after the second period. Third period, Calgary actually was shorthanded. Picked up another goal was Andrew Mangiapane, who scored his 15th of the season, just past the 3-minute mark. So now Calgary had a 3-0 lead. And then Michael Backlund, a minute 3 later, made it 4-0 for Calgary. And actually that's all the scoring. And ultimately, the Calgary Flames won this one 4-0, as was Dan Vladar, the backup Dan Vladar, who got his actually second straight shutout. And this was also the second straight start where he had a shutout, as I was meant to say. So Calgary win this one 4-0. Also, as mentioned, Dan Vladar used to play for Boston. Calgary outshot Boston in this one 32-28 overall. Matthew Tkachuk led the way for Calgary, had 2 assists, and it was Dan Vladar who made 28 saves for Calgary in the shutout. That was Jeremy Swayman who made 28 saves for Boston. So Calgary finished off the road trip, 7-game road trip, with 4 wins, 1 loss, and 2 overtime losses. And actually at that point, Calgary had 7 shutouts in 19 games, and it was like, go all the way back to the 60s or something like that in the modern era where a team had that many shutouts, 19 games of the season, because we had 5 shutouts for Jacob Markstrom and 2 shutouts for Dan Vladar. So Markstrom and Vladar wall material, please. So that was game 19. So game 20, as the Calgary Flames went back home. This was on Tuesday, November the 23rd, as the Calgary Flames were hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. This was a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome, and now the Flames are home for 3 games, and they looked strong on this game, despite the fact that they came back from a 7-game road trip. Calgary once again had a quick start. It was Dylan Dubé who scored his second just past the opening minute mark, so Calgary had a 1-0 lead at that point. And then just before the goal that Dylan Dubé scored, I should also mention that Blake Coleman for Calgary and Kirby Dach for Chicago had a fight to set the tone, so definitely got to see a red going right away. However, just before the 9-minute mark of the first period, Chicago did tie the game up at 1-1, as was Brendan Hagel, who scored his 6th of the season. And then later in the first period, Calgary did regain the lead as Milan Lucic scored his 5th past the 13-minute mark, so Calgary took a 2-1 lead. And that's how things stood after the first period. Calgary up 2-1. Second period, Chicago did tie it up at 2-2, as it was Reese Johnson who scored his 1st of the season just before the 4-minute mark. That was the only goal in the second period, so we had a 2-2 game going into the third period. Third period, the game stayed 2-2, but Calgary kept pressing, looking to go ahead. Eventually, Calgary did get that goal to go ahead, as it was Matthew Tkachuk who scored his 9th of the season just before the 14.5-minute mark, so Calgary now took a 3-2 lead going into the final 5 minutes of the third period. Chicago pulled the goalie late in the period for the extra tagger, but actually Calgary added a couple more empty netters to make it 5-2. Trevor Lewis scored his 2nd of the season past the 18.5-minute mark, and then it was Johnny Gaudreau who got his 9th just past the 19.5-minute mark. So Calgary ultimately took this one 5-2, but I don't say essentially it was a 3-2 game, as they collected points in 7 straight games, including this being their 4th straight win on this winning streak. And also, interestingly, although Calgary had a lot of games against the Eastern Conference, especially early in the season on the road, this actually was their first win against a Western Conference opponent with this win. So, as I mentioned, Calgary also played Chicago. They outshot them 39-21 overall. Rasmus Sanderson and Elias Lindholm each had 2 assists in this one. And then it was Reese Johnson who had a goal and assist. So the goaltending story of this game, while Jacob Markstrom, he made 19 saves for Calgary. Do we say this is an off game because it wasn't a shutout? Well, it was Marc-Andre Fleury. Yes, you know Marc-Andre Fleury is now with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was busier, made 34 saves for Chicago. So that was game 20 to start off this 3-game homestand. So game 21, the Calgary Flames had a few days off after all that traveling. This was on Saturday, November the 27th, as the Calgary Flames were hosting the Winnipeg Jets. This was an 8 p.m. puck drop on Hockey Night in Canada, and a couple 5s were in play in this one, as the Calgary Flames were looking to extend their winning streak to 5 games, while the Winnipeg Jets, they were looking to end their losing streak at 5 games. And Calgary really scored fast in this one, as in, if you didn't get to your seat or after puck drop, you might have missed the first goal, as it was Matthew Tkachuk who scored his first goal of the game, his 10th of the season, literally 26 seconds into the first period, is meant to say. So Calgary took a very early 1-0 lead. Then later in the first period, Calgary actually took a 2-0 lead on a power play, as Elias Lindholm, who got his 9th of the season, past the 7.5-minute mark. So now we had a 2-0 lead for Calgary, 7.5 minutes in, so things are looking good. However, Winnipeg seemed to have some other plans, as Winnipeg did get back in this one late in the first period, as Kyle Connor, who scored his 13th just past the 60.5-minute mark. Kyle Connor, he always seems to have a big game when he's playing Calgary. So that made it 2-1 for Calgary, and that's actually how things stood after the first period. So we had a 2-1 game going to the second period. Second period, both sides played evenly after I said Calgary was the better team in the first period. However, Winnipeg did actually tie this game up at 2-2, as it was Paul Stastny who scored his fifth just before the 5-minute mark. That was the only goal in the second period. So we have this one tied up at 2-2 going into the third period. Note that at the 15.5-minute mark of the second period, though, Milan Lucic, he took a boarding penalty and he got a game misconduct on the play for checking or boarding Dylan DeMello for Winnipeg. So definitely lost one of our spark plugs in that game. Third period, Calgary did come back as a better team. However, Connor Hellebuyck, he definitely stood tall for the Winnipeg Jets. He outdueled Jacob Markstrom in this one. The game was still tied at 2-2 going into the final 5 minutes of the third period. Well, Kyle Connor, as I mentioned, he always likes to have a big game against the Calgary Flames. He got his second of the game just past the 15-minute mark, so Winnipeg now took a 3-2 lead. Calgary pulled the goalie for the extra tackle late, but it was Andrew Kopp for Winnipeg. He put it away in the empty netter on his sixth of the season at exactly the 19-minute mark. So Winnipeg ultimately won this one 4-2 to end the winning streak at 4 for Calgary and got Winnipeg off their 5-game losing streak. Calgary actually outshot Winnipeg in this one 36-28. Johnny Gaudreau, we had 2 assists for Calgary this one, so he was a part in both goals. As I mentioned, on the Winnipeg side of the puck, Kyle Connor had the 2 goals. Blake Wheeler had 2 assists. And then when it comes to the goaltending story of this game, Jacob Markstrom had 24 saves for Calgary. Well, Connor Hellebuyck definitely was the difference. He made 34 saves for Winnipeg. So it wasn't a happy hockey night in Canada, but I wasn't too discouraged how the Calgary Flames looked against the Winnipeg Jets when Winnipeg is looked upon to be one of the better teams in the Central. So now game 22, this was on Monday, November the 29th, as the Calgary Flames were wrapping up their 3-game homestand as they hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins. This was a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome, and actually Calgary got to see Sidney Crosby play in this one. Calgary looked like the more dominant and better team in this one compared to the last time they played Pittsburgh, because they did win last time when they played in Pittsburgh, but Jacob Markstrom made 45 saves in a shutout. I liked how Calgary looked in this one more, all things considered. As they say, there was actually no scoring in the first period, though. So we had a 0-0 game going in the second period. Second period, the first goal came past the 9.5-minute mark, as it was Milan Lucic for Calgary, who got his 6th of the season. And Calgary took a 1-0 lead, and actually that was the only goal in the second period. So it was 1-0 Calgary going into the third period. Third period, Calgary took a penalty, and Pittsburgh on that power play did take advantage. It was Jake Guentzel who scored for the Pittsburgh Penguins, got his 9th of the season just past the 12.5-minute mark. So we have the game tied at 1-1. No more scoring to report, so I'd like to say this one needs overtime. Calgary has struggled in overtime this season. However, there was a couple shots on both sides, but no major chances, so the first time this season, this one needs a shootout. So going into the shootout, Calgary being the home team, had the first shot. Sean Monahan was up first and got stopped, while Jake Guentzel for Pittsburgh missed, so that was round 1. Second round, Matthew Tkachuk for Calgary and Sidney Crosby for Pittsburgh got stopped, so it was still 0-0 going in the third round of shootout. In the third round of shootout, Johnny Gaudreau did score for Calgary, leaving the game on the stick of Chris Letang for Pittsburgh. He also scored, so the shootout continues, tied at 1. Now just, next goal wins it, pretty much. So in the fourth round, Andrew Mangiapane and Jeff Carter got stopped. So now go to the fifth round. It was Elias Lindholm for Calgary and Yvonne Rodriguez for Pittsburgh got stopped. So we need a sixth round. Sixth round, Oliver Shillington for Calgary got stopped, while Kasperi Kapanen for Pittsburgh missed. So now we need to go to the seventh round of shootout. Michael Backlund did score for Calgary, so now the game went onto the stick of Brock McGinn for Pittsburgh. Well, he actually got stopped. So Calgary ultimately won this one 2-1, and it took the seventh round of the shootout. Calgary also outshot Pittsburgh 32-22. It's interesting that Michael Backlund scored the shootout winner, because he took the penalty that Jake Guentzel scored on the power play, so it comes to the goaltending story. Well, Jacob Markstrom made 21 saves for Calgary. Well, it was Tristan Jarry who made 31 saves for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that was it for the 3-game homestand. And game 22 had some overtime and a shootout. So now game 23. This was on Thursday, December the 2nd, as the Calgary Flames were now starting a 4-game road trip against Pacific Division opponents. So this definitely would be a big road trip. Jockeying for position at this time of year in the Pacific Division, as this was an 8:30 puck drop at Staples Center, definitely way past my bedtime o'clock. As I mentioned, started a 4-game road trip with Pacific Division opponents. Also mentioned that this was Daryl Sutter's first return to Los Angeles as head coach for the opposition since leaving the Los Angeles Kings and those 2 Stanley Cup titles. Well, it was a wide open game for both sides, but I felt Los Angeles had the slight edge in play later in the game. First goal went to the Los Angeles Kings, though, as it was Alex Iafallo who scored his 9th at the 4.5-minute mark. So Los Angeles took a 1-0 lead in this game to start scoring first. However, Calgary got the power play goal to tie it up at 1-1 as Andrew Mangiapane, yes, I guess we're on the road, and that's when he scores. He got his 16th just past the 11-minute mark. Andrew Mangiapane, he definitely scores well on the road. This is where I meant to say, when we're at home, we got to tell them we're on the road, because I think those 16 goals, I think 14 of them came on the road. But he had a couple hat tricks on the road, so pretty good start. But Andrew Mangiapane definitely plays better on the road. Then later in the period, Calgary took a 2-1 lead on another power play goal. It was Milan Lucic. He's definitely been a great pickup for the Calgary Flames, as he got his 7th just before the 16.5-minute mark. So Calgary took a 2-1 lead, and that's how things stood after the first period. And now going into the second period, Calgary took a 3-1 lead, as it was Matthew Tkachuk who scored his 11th of the season just before the 5-minute mark. So the game remained 3-1 for Calgary for much of the second period until Alex Edler, who scored his 1st of the season just past the 18-minute mark of the second period to make it a 3-2 game for Calgary. And that's how things stood after the second period. Third period, there actually was no scoring report, so Calgary ultimately held on to win this one 3-2 to start off this 4-game Pacific Division road trip with a win. As Los Angeles, he did outshoot the Calgary Flames 42-32. Andrew Mangiapane led the way with a goal and assist. Los Angeles led by Alex Edler, who had a goal and assist, and Victor Arvidsson chipped in with 2 assists. Jacob Markstrom, he made 40 saves for Calgary, while as Cal Peterson, who made 29 saves for the Los Angeles Kings. Also to note in this, that since the Calgary Flames were in California, they actually sent defenseman Yusuf Valimaki down to the Stockton Heat, as he hasn't played much. There hasn't been any injuries other than Brett Ritchie up to this point, so practically it's been the same lineup that the Calgary Flames have iced with the same scratches. Calgary did call up Adam Ruzicka a couple games earlier, but hasn't drawn into the lineup in this episode, but just got to throw that in there because I might mention his name in the Stockton Heat quick hits when I get to that segment of the video. So game 24, this will be the last game I'll recap in this episode before we move on to other business. This was on Friday, December the 3rd. As the Calgary Flames went down south a little more to take on the Anaheim Ducks. This was at the Honda Center, and should we still say the dreaded Honda Center, even though I think history is slowly, gradually changing where it's not as harsh for Calgary? This was an 8 p.m. puck drop at the Honda Center, second on back-to-back nights, so Dan Vladar, he got to start in net for Calgary. And I'd say it was another wide-open game for both sides, and there was actually no scoring to report in the first period. First goal of the game came 54 seconds in on the second period. As Anaheim struck first, it was a Sonny Milano who scored his 6th of the season, and Anaheim took a 1-0 lead. Calgary did tie it up at 1-1, as it was Blake Coleman for Calgary scored his 4th just past the 3.5-minute mark, so Calgary answered back fairly quickly. So that was 1-1 at that point. Calgary actually took a 2-1 lead in the second period as Elias Lindholm scored his 10th just before the 10.5-minute mark. And then Sean Monahan. Yes, we still have Sean Monahan. He scored his 3rd of the season just past the 15.5 minute mark. So Calgary now had a 3-1 lead at that point in the third period. However, with 36 seconds to go in the second period, Anaheim made it a 3-2 game for Calgary, as a Ricardo Kell, who scored his 8th, to cap off a 5-goal third period. So going into the third period, Calgary had a 3-2 lead. Third period, Anaheim got an early power play on a delay of game penalty, and on that said power play, it was Vinny Lettieri who scored his second just past the 2-minute mark to tie up the game at 3-3. So it was definitely a tie game at 3-3 for much of the third period. So with no more scoring to report, you know what I'm going to say. This one needs overtime. In overtime, both sides had a couple of shots, but no answer. So as you know what I'm going to say, this one needs a shootout. In the shootout, Trevor Zegras was up first for Anaheim, being the home team. Was stopped, while Johnny Gaudreau, up first for Calgary, did score. So Calgary had a 1-0 lead in the first round of the shootout. Second round, it was Kevin Shatterkirk for Anaheim, was stopped. And then Matthew Tkachuk, he actually scored for Calgary to clinch the shootout. So Calgary only needed 2 rounds of the shootout. The third round was not necessary in this one. So Calgary takes this one 4-3 in the second round of shootout, and now go 2-0 on this 4-game road trip. We did have to give Anaheim a point though, and Anaheim has been surprisingly in the thick of in the Pacific Division this season. So Calgary outshot Anaheim 36-34 overall, including each side having 2 shots in overtime. I guess this was the Trevor game, because Trevor Lewis for Calgary had 2 assists. Well, Trevor Zegras, well, you know, he took a lot of penalties from Calgary Flame players, but he still had 2 assists for Anaheim. So when it comes to the goaltending story of the game, well, Dan Vladar, he made 31 saves for Calgary, while John Gibson, who is always one of the top goalies in the NHL, made 33 saves for the Anaheim Ducks. So after 24 games, the Calgary Flames are 15-4-5 for 35 points, and they're first in the Pacific. So now let's take a look at the stats and standings, shall we, for the Calgary Flames. So if we take a look at the stats for goal leaders, well, Andrew Mangiapane leads the way with 16 goals. Matthew Tkachuk is second with 11. Elias Lindholm has 10 for third. Johnny Gaudreau has 9 goals, 4th in the team. Milan Lucic rounds out the top 5 in goals for Calgary with 7. So when it comes to the assists, Johnny Gaudreau leads the way with 18 assists. Second is Elias Lindholm with 14. And Oliver Shillington, he is third on the team in assists with 12. Rasmus Andersson is 4th with 11. Matthew rounds the top 5 with 9. So leading the goal scorer right now for the Calgary Flames is Johnny Gaudreau with 27 points, more than a point a game. Elias Lindholm is second with 24 points. Matthew Tkachuk is third with 20 points. Andrew Mangiapane is fourth with 19 points. And then Oliver Shillington is third with 15. But let's listen to the goaltending story, because I think the Flames actually have the best goals against average in the league. And probably have to say right now, the Calgary Flames have the best goaltending tandem in the league. Jacob Markstrom, in 18 games, he has 10 wins, 4 losses, and 4 overtime losses, with a 1.76 goals against average and a .939 save percentage. 5 shutouts also help. So now Dan Vladar, now he's played a couple more games in this episode. In 6 games, he has 5 wins. He hasn't had a regulation loss yet as a Flame, and one overtime loss with a 1.78 goals against average and a .939 save percentage with the 2 shutouts. So our goaltending, I have to say, actually is the best in the league overall. So let's just take a look at around the league when it comes to the leading goal scorers, point getters, and goal scorers and all that around the league. So the leading point getter right now for the NHL is Leon Draisaitl. He has 43 points. For Edmonton, well, Connor McDavid is just behind with 42, so the top 2 point getters are both up the road. And then third is Alexander Ovechkin with 39 points. And then Nazem Kadri for Colorado is 4th with 30. And then there's a tie for 5th. as you got Kirill Kaprizov for Minnesota and Jonathan Huberdeau for Florida, each tied with 29 points each. So the leading goal scorer in the NHL right now, well, Leon Draisaitl once again leads that. So right now he has D.R. Ross and the Rocket Richard with 21 goals. However, Alexander Ovechkin, he's chasing after Wayne Gretzky's record. He has 20 goals, and he has 750 goals in his career at this point for Washington. Third in goals is also tied with Andrew Mangiapane, Connor McDavid, and Chris Kreider for New York. Each have 16, so Andrew Mangiapane is in the top 3 tied in goals. So interesting to see. So now when it comes to the leading assist leader in the NHL, well, you got Connor McDavid leads with 26 assists. Leon Draisaitl has 22 assists. Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Mikael Granlund. Kadri playing for Colorado, Huberdeau for Florida, and Granlund for Nashville, each tied for third with 21 assists each. So that's the kind of the gist of the story. I mean, the leading goaltending goals against average, well, you have Jake Ottinger for Dallas with 1.41, but sometimes it's kind of misleading to look at leading save percentage and goals against average depending on how many games played, but Jacob Markstrom is actually third in the league with 1.76, and Dan Vladar is tied with Jack Campbell for fourth with 1.78 goals against average. And then save percentage, well, Jacob Markstrom and Dan Vladar each are tied for third in the league at 939. So I'm going to say overall the Calgary Flames has the top goaltending tandem in the league. So if you take a look at the quick team stats, well, the Edmonton Oilers still lead the league in power plays with 35.3%, but the Calgary Flames are actually fifth in the league at 25.8%. Penalty kill, well, the Pittsburgh Penguins lead the league at 91.8%, but the Calgary Flames are fifth, so we're top 5 in both in special teams with an 86.5%. Now face shots per game, well, Carolina leads the league at, this is the shots against, I should say. Carolina leads with 28, but the Flames are also fifth in that with 30. So defensively, special teams were definitely in the top 5. And then when it comes to face-off win percentage, well, that goes to the Dallas Stars at 55.5%. Calgary is 19th at 49.4%. So that's the quick stats. So let's take a look at the standings. As mentioned, in the Pacific Division, starting off west, Calgary is first with 35 points in 24 games. However, Edmonton is second with 32 points in only 22 games. Anaheim's in the top 3 in the Pacific right now. They have 30 points in 25 games. And then when it comes to fourth place, it's the San Jose Sharks. They have 27 points in 24 games. Fifth place is the Vegas Golden Knights. They have 26 points in 23 games. Los Angeles, and they have 22 points in 22 games for sixth. Seattle Kraken, they have 20 points in 24 games. And then the Vancouver Canucks, they have 18 points in 25 games for eighth and last. So that is the Pacific Division. So now if we move out to the Central Division for the Western Conference, 35 points is first place as well, which that goes to the Minnesota Wild. They have 24 games played, 35 points, but they are 17-6-1, so depends how you slice the record for the Flames and the Wild. Second place in the Central is the St. Louis Blues. They have 28 points in 24 games. Top 3 is the Nashville Predators. They have 27 points in 24 games. And then in fourth place, you got the Colorado Avalanche at 26 points, but they've only played 21 games. Fifth place, Dallas Stars, 26 points in 21 games. Then sixth place is the Winnipeg Jets. They have 26 points in 23 games. Seventh place is the Chicago Blackhawks. They have 18 points in 23 games. Then the Arizona Coyotes. I think they're going to be slightly better than the 1974-75 Washington Capitals. They have 12 points in 24 games, but they already have 5 wins. But looking at the Western Conference right now, I think Seattle and Vancouver are already pushing in we're playing for next year territory. And then I think Chicago and Arizona, there was no expectations. All things said, they're exceeding expectations right now. But that's how I feel right now where the teams are at in the Western Conference in each division. So now let's go out east. Starting with the Atlantic Division, with 37 points is the Florida Panthers in 24 games, and they actually are first in the NHL right now. Second place is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have 36 points in 25 points. Top three is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have 32 points in 23 games, so definitely a pretty good top three in the Atlantic right now. Fourth place is the Detroit Red Wings. They have 29 points in 25 games. Then the Boston Bruins. They have 25 points in 21 games. And then this is where it kind of really tails off. The Buffalo Sabres are sixth. They have 19 points in 24 games. Montreal Canadiens, they have 15 points in 26 games. And the Ottawa Senators, they have 13 points in 22 games. People were thinking Ottawa was going to be a little better this season. Now if you go to the Metropolitan, Washington leads the way. They have 36 points in 25 games. And then second place is the New York Rangers. They have 35 points in 23 games. And then the Carolina Hurricanes, they have 33 points in 23 games. So the top three in both divisions in the Eastern Conference are definitely stacked. Fourth place, well, the Pittsburgh Penguins have climbed themselves up. They have 27 points in 24 games. Columbus Blue Jackets, kind of surprised to see them where they are. They have 24 points in 22 games for fifth place. New Jersey Devils are in sixth place. They have 22 points in 22 games. Philadelphia Flyers, they have 20 points. They played 21 games. And in eighth place, well, the New York Islanders also got shut down recently with COVID. They have 14 points in 19 games, but I thought the New York Islanders would be a little better. Yeah, they had a 13-game road trip to start before they went into the UBS Center, but it's definitely going to be tougher to play catch-up in the Eastern Conference right now. Looking at the Atlantic, I think if you're below Boston, you're already looking like you're in rough shape. And then the Metropolitan, I almost would have to say Columbus below, or even Pittsburgh is going to be struggling right now for the wild card, but it's still a little early. A lot can still change. So that was the quick stats and standings part around the National Hockey League. So now let's take a look at how things are looking on the farm with Stockton Heat quick hits. So let's bring that up. So just like up here in Calgary, things are looking pretty good at Stockton as well as the Stockton Heat quick hits. So game 13, this was on Sunday, November the 21st, as the Stockton Heat were taking on the Ontario Reign on the road. This is the Los Angeles Kings affiliate. This is on the Toyota Arena, 4 p.m. puck drop. Stockton won that game 4-2. Who stood out was Byron Fries and Jacob Pelche, each had a goal and assist. Adam Ruzicka and Luke Phillip had a goal each. Dustin Wolf made 31 saves in net for Stockton. So game 14, as the Stockton Heat were taking on the Ontario Reign again at the Toyota Center, 8 p.m. puck drop. However, this time it was the Ontario Reign that beat Stockton 5-3. Matthew Phillips, Glenn Godwin had a goal each, and then it was Luke Phillip who had a goal and assist, and it was Adam Werner who was in net for Stockton, made 21 saves. So game 15, this was on Friday, November 26th, as the Stockton Heat were still on the road as they were taking on the Colorado Eagles. This is the Colorado Avalanche affiliate. This was at the Budweiser Event Center, 7:05. Puck drop, and the Stockton Heat were on the right end of this one in overtime, 3-2. Byron Fries, Luke Phillip each had a goal, and it was Jacob Pelche who scored the overtime winner. Alex Gallant, Ito Taloa, they took some fighting majors in this one, so this was a little bit of a rough game. Dustin Wolf made 30 saves for Stockton. So game 16, this was on Saturday, November 27th, as the Stockton Heat were taking on the Colorado Eagles on the road again. However, this time it was the Colorado Eagles that won this one 5-1. Martin Pospisil was the only one that scored, and Adam Werner made 19 saves. So game 17, this was scheduled, keyword being was scheduled, for Wednesday, December the 1st, as the Stockton Heat were going to be back at home taking on the Bakersfield Condors, who are the Bakersfield Condors are the Emden Oilers affiliate. It was scheduled for a 7:30 puck drop, but the game got postponed. No word on when that game's going to be made up. Actually, I'm not quite sure exactly why that got postponed, if it was COVID or arena issues, so that game did not happen. So game 18, this happened on Friday, December the 3rd, as the Stockton Heat were home taking on the San Diego Gulls. 8 p.m. puck drop at the Stockton Arena. The San Diego Gulls are the Anaheim Ducks affiliate, so it's at the same time when the Calgary Flames defeated the Anaheim Ducks in the shootout. Well, the Stockton Heat actually won 4-1 against the San Diego Gulls on the same night. This game, Connor Mackey, who had 2 goals and an assist. Martin Pospisil and Connor Zary had a goal each. Dustin Wolf made 23 saves in the game for the Stockton Heat. And then game 19, as I had stuff to do on Saturday, so I moved up one Stockton game to recap in this episode. Game 19. This was on Saturday, December 4th, as the Stockton Heat were hosting the San Diego Gulls again. And the Stockton Heat was on the right end of this one with a 3-2 win. 7 p.m. puck drop at the Stockton Arena. Well, Glenn Godwin had 2 goals. Connor Mackey had a goal and assist, and Yusuf Valimaki, who recently got sent down to the Stockton Heat, gets in playing time, got 2 assists in this one. And Dustin Wolf made 36 saves. So in the American Hockey League, the Stockton Heat are 13-2 and 2-0, whereas they have not lost one in a shootout. But they have 28 points and they're first in the Pacific in the American Hockey League. So both the Flames and the Stockton Heat are both first in the Pacific Division in respective divisions. So let's just look at the top 5 scoring right now when it comes to the Stockton Heat. Well, now that Adam Ruzicka actually has been up with the Calgary Flames the last few games, Jacob Pelche actually now leads the team in scoring in 17 games. He has 7 goals, 12 assists for 19 points. And then Glenn Godwin is second in scoring in 15 games. He has 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points. Adam Ruzicka had, in 13 games, he had 10 goals, 6 assists for 16 points. Matthew Phillips for 4th in 14 games. He has 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points. And around at the top 5 is Byron Freese, who had 15 games. He has 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. So that's the top 5 in scoring in Stockton. And the goaltending is just as pretty good for the Stockton Heat as it is up with the Calgary Flames. Dustin Wolf, he is 9-0-2-0 in 11 games. He has a 206 goals against average and a 935 save percentage. Well, Adam Werner, the backup, he is 4-2-0-0. He has a 298 goals against average and 882 save percentage. So that's how things are looking in Stockton right now. And like I said, the only major injury the Calgary Flames have had to deal with this whole season is Brett Ritchie is still out with his injury. So now, in this part of the episode, to wrap things up, let's take a look ahead what the next 6 games will be and what next few Stockton Heat games will be, which will be the next episode when I'll take a look at games 25 to 30 in the next episode. So game 25, this will be on Sunday, December the 5th, as the Calgary Flames will continue their road trip with the Pacific Division and rivals. As will this be the first time the Calgary Flames will win at T-Mobile Arena against the Vegas Golden Knights? That's what's up first, as they be an 8 p.m. puck drop, so Calgary and Vegas. Of course, when Jack Eichel gets, which I hear he is actually almost ready to start skating this game, that's going to be a storyline when Jack Eichel gets playing when we play Vegas, considering we almost apparently got him. So that's game 25. Game 26, the Calgary Flames wrap up their 4-game road trip. This will be on Tuesday, December 7th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the San Jose Sharks. That'll be an 8:30 p.m. puck drop, so a couple more way past my bedtime o'clock game, so my short will be delayed. And then game 27, the Calgary Flames come back home, as on Thursday, December the 9th, the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Carolina Hurricanes. That'll be a 7 p.m. puck drop. And then on game 28, as on Saturday, December 11th, for Hockey Night in Canada, the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Boston Bruins. That'll be an 8 p.m. puck drop. Game 29, the Calgary Flames will be going back on the road, as on Monday, December the 13th, they'll be in Chicago, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. That'll be a 5:30 puck drop at the United Center. And then game 30, this will be on Tuesday, December the 14th, as the Calgary Flames will be in Nashville, taking on the Nashville Predators at the Bridgestone Arena. So they have 4 games on the road and 2 games at home, smack dab in the middle. So now if you look at the Stockton Heat, if everything goes as scheduled, it'll only be 3 games that I'll recap, well, the next game for the Stockton Heat is that makeup game for Game 6. They'll be playing that game on Tuesday, December 7th, as the Stockton Heat will be hosting the San Jose Barracuda. San Jose, earlier in this year, they were shut down. Or not shut down, but they had to play the farm team because of COVID. So, San Jose Barracuda, the Stockton Heat game will be rescheduled. That'll be a 7:30 puck drop at the Stockton Arena. And then Game 20, this will be on Friday, December the 10th, as the Stockton Heat will be taking on the Tucson Roadrunners on the road, and this is the Arizona Coyotes affiliate. This will be on the road at the Tucson Convention Center Arena. 7 p.m. puck drop, and then Game 21 on Saturday, December 11th, as Stockton Heat will have another game against the Tucson Roadrunners in Tucson at the Tucson Convention Center, 7 p.m. puck drop. So that's the looking ahead part for the Stockton Heat as well. So I'm going to say things are still looking good, both with the Calgary Flames and the Stockton Heat. It's just the big question is, can the Calgary Flames maintain this pace all season? They've definitely been fortunate with injuries. They haven't had any key injuries, and the goaltending definitely has been up to stuff. Playing well defensively. It's like right now, you have to say Daryl Sutter. The move to bring in Daryl Sutter, now having a full team season camp with this team. We're definitely looking good right now. We're almost looking like the Calgary Flames did in 2018-19 when we finished first in the Western Conference. However, it's ultimately what happens in the playoffs, and who we happen to draw, and right now things are looking good. And the Battle of Alberta is definitely relevant, as Calgary and Edmonton have been jumping back and forth between first and second, just like those good old days that I remember in my childhood. Maybe finally we'll meet in the playoffs. I was going back to James Short the last time the Calgary Flames played the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs. That was a long time ago. So anyway, as I like to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, where I recap games, stories, and all that. But I also do a variety of non-sports content like personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I also do share my experience same on the road or at a sporting event. And I've done some vlogging to go, so if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, you know what you do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social links down in the description below, and I have my second short channel in Brett Hornby Shorts, where I exclusively put my short form content on there. For example, I'll do a quick post-game recap of Calgary Flames games. With some of these games being late, it gets late to the next day. But still, with the Grey Cup on the road to the Grey Cup, I'll also do quick recaps of the playoff games. And of course, we're still got the Grey Cup to be decided. So you can also take a look on my main channel when I preview the Grey Cup. Once we decide who are the two teams that are going to be playing, you probably figured out, if you already looked at some of my videos, my heart is broken that sadly it won't be my Calgary Stampeders this year. But if the Flames, continue the way they're going, maybe we can dream that they'll win a Stanley Cup. I can dream, right? Right now it's still looking good. So as I say, I'd like to appreciate, like, subscribe here on my main channel and my second channel. So as I say, go Flames go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.